The sound of shattering glass cut through the Friday evening noise like a blade. Hazel Reed stood motionless behind the polished oak bar, the wet towel slipping from her fingers to the cold tile floor. 5 Marines crowded the counter in front of her. Camouflage uniforms, broad shoulders, muscles straining against army green t-shirts beneath their jackets. Staff Sergeant Blake Morrison, the largest of them, reached across the bar and yanked the towel from her hand with a sharp jerk. "Hey, sweetheart," Blake said, voice heavy with contempt as he tossed the towel to the floor. "Get me a cold beer and quit staring like that. I'm talking to real warriors here." Nobody spoke up. 40 customers packed into the Anchor bar. Marines, contractors, a handful of locals, all turned their attention elsewhere or studied their drinks with sudden intensity. Hazel, standing 5'6" and weighing 115 pounds, looked like a college girl working part-time. She bent down to retrieve the towel without a word. Her hands didn't shake, her shoulders didn't hunch forward. She straightened slowly, folding the damp cloth into a perfect square, each corner meeting at exactly 90 degrees, each crease sharp as a knife edge. Blake looked her up and down, lips curling into a sneer. "Well, you gonna stand there all night? Go get the beer." But there was something Blake didn't notice. Hazel wasn't looking at his eyes. She was assessing. His left shoulder sat slightly lower, his stance lacked balance, his posture exposed a weakness on his right flank. She placed the folded towel on the counter with slow, controlled movement, absolute precision in every gesture. In the next 20 minutes, everything in this bar would change completely, and Blake Morrison would understand he'd just made the biggest mistake of his military career. The Anchor sat 2 blocks from Naval Amphibious Base Coronado in San Diego, its weathered exterior marked by a hand-painted sign showing a ship's anchor wrapped in rope. Inside, nautical memorabilia covered every wall: ship wheels, faded photographs of destroyers, shadow boxes holding military patches from units spanning 6 decades. The main bar stretched 30 feet along the back wall, 12 stools bolted to the floor in front of it. 8 square tables filled the center space. 4 vinyl booths lined the windows facing the street. A pool table occupied the back corner near the kitchen door. At 1845 hours, peak time, 35 witnesses filled the space. Hazel moved behind the bar with quiet efficiency, pulling a Coors Light from the cooler and setting it on the counter. Blake grabbed it without looking at her, already turned back to his companions. Corporal Ivy Carter sat to his right, a lean woman with her dark hair pulled tight in a regulation bun, sharp features set in perpetual judgment. On Blake's left, Sergeant Ethan Bradley checked his phone, tattoos visible beneath rolled sleeves, the confident posture of someone who spent his days teaching weapons handling. Lance Corporal Connor Walsh slouched on the end stool, already 3 beers deep, eyes unfocused. Private First Class Mason Fletcher, barely 21, sat beside Ivy with the cocky energy of youth, untested by real consequence. "So, I told the lieutenant," Blake was saying, loud enough for half the bar to hear, "those Buds guys think they're special, but half of them couldn't hack it in a real firefight. All that Hell Week nonsense, it's just marketing." Ivy laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Right? They act like they invented hard training. Marine Corps has been doing this since 1775. Hazel wiped down the counter, moving in smooth arcs. Her stance shifted automatically when Floyd Martinez, the bar owner, walked past. Feet shoulder-width apart, weight balanced, hands relaxed but ready, parade rest. She caught herself and forced her posture to slouch. Floyd, a thick-set man in his 50s with gray streaking his close-cropped hair, gave her a subtle nod. His eyes held a question. She shook her head slightly. Not yet. He moved on toward the kitchen, but she saw his attention remain fixed on the Marines. "Hey, bartender girl," Ivy called out, snapping her fingers. "You even know what MOS means?" Hazel paused, rag in hand. She looked at Ivy with neutral eyes, said nothing. "See?" Ivy turned to the others triumphantly. "Clueless. These civilian workers near base, they pick up some jargon and think they understand military life." She looked back at Hazel. "MOS, Military Occupational Specialty. It's the job code for—" "I know what it means," Hazel said quietly. Blake's eyebrows rose. "Oh, she speaks. Okay then, smarty. What's mine? Take a guess." Hazel studied him for 3 seconds, noted the specific wear pattern on his boots, the faded unit patch on his jacket, the way his hands moved. "Oh, 311, rifleman?" Blake's smile faltered. "Lucky guess." "And yours," Hazel continued, looking at Ethan. "O368, infantry weapons officer." Ethan set his phone down slowly. "How'd you—" "YouTube University," Ivy interrupted, voice dripping sarcasm. "Probably Googles this stuff before her shifts. Very impressive." Lily Harper, the waitress working the floor, approached the bar with an empty tray. 22 years old, studying psychology at community college, she'd worked at the Anchor for 8 months. She leaned close to Hazel, voice barely audible. "Don't let them get to you. They're always like this on Fridays." Hazel gave her a small smile. "I'm fine." But Lily saw what others didn't. The way Hazel's eyes tracked every person in the room, the tactical awareness in how she positioned herself with clear sightlines to both exits, the controlled breathing that spoke of deliberate calm rather than natural ease. Connor Walsh pushed his empty bottle forward, the glass skidding across the polished wood. "Another. And make it quick, yeah? Some of us have been serving our country all week. Hard work." Hazel retrieved another beer, twisted the cap off with her bare hand. No opener, just grip strength and technique. She set it down precisely in front of Connor. "See that?" Mason leaned forward, addressing the group. "No bottle opener. Girl's got some grip." "Gym rat, probably," Blake dismissed. "Does CrossFit and thinks she's tough." Oscar Walsh occupied the corner booth, same spot he'd claimed every Friday for the past 3 years. 68 years old, retired Marine gunnery sergeant, he'd served 2 tours in Iraq and 1 in Afghanistan before a stroke forced his discharge. He sat alone nursing a ginger ale, doctor's orders, watching the scene at the bar with growing interest. His fingers drummed on the table, not nervously, but in a specific rhythm, infantry cadence. Blake suddenly stood, deliberately bumping into Hazel as she passed with a tray of glasses. She absorbed the impact without stumbling, feet automatically adjusting her center of gravity. Blake turned, looking down at her. "Oh, sorry. Didn't see you there. You're pretty small, you know that? How much do you weigh? Like 100 pounds? 115, Hazel said evenly. 115, Blake laughed. My ruck weighs more than you. Connor, you hear that? Connor, now 4 beers in, grinned sloppily. Tiny thing. Probably needs help opening pickle jars. He reached over and deliberately knocked his fresh beer toward the edge of the counter. Hazel's hand shot out, catching it before it toppled. One-handed, without looking, pure reflex. The bottle stopped an inch from disaster. The Marines went quiet for a beat. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Fast hands, he said slowly. Hazel set the beer upright, said nothing, moved away to serve another customer. Blake recovered first. Probably played volleyball or something. College girl reflexes. But Ethan wasn't convinced. He watched Hazel move behind the bar. Economy of motion, no wasted movement, checking her surroundings every 12 seconds like clockwork. He'd seen that behavior before, in soldiers, the good ones. All right, bar girl, Ivy called out, her voice taking on a challenging edge. Let's test that Google education. What's Lima Charlie mean? Hazel's response came automatically, before she could stop herself. Loud and clear. And Charlie Mike? Continue mission. Whiskey Pete? White phosphorus. The Marines exchanged glances. These weren't basic terms civilians picked up from movies. This was operational language. Mason leaned back, studying Hazel with new attention. Okay, that's oddly specific. Where'd you learn that stuff? I read a lot, Hazel said quietly. Read a lot, Ivy repeated mockingly. Right. Or maybe you just memorized some military dictionary to impress the guys here. Doesn't mean you understand what any of it actually means in the field. Captain Daniel Foster sat in a booth near the windows with his wife Grace, a former Navy nurse. Off-duty, wearing civilian clothes, jeans and a polo shirt, but his bearing gave him away. Straight spine, alert eyes, command presence even in relaxation. He'd been half listening to his wife's story about their daughter's soccer game, but now his attention shifted fully to the bar. Something about the situation didn't sit right. Dan? Grace touched his hand. You okay? Yeah, just keeping an eye on something. Grace followed his gaze. Saw the Marines crowding the small woman behind the bar. Should you? Not yet. Let's see how it plays out. At the bar, Blake had moved on to a new test. Okay, smarty, explain the chain of command. E1 through E9, then O1 through O10. Go. Hazel wiped her hands on her towel, met his eyes. Enlisted, private, private first class, lance corporal, corporal, sergeant, staff sergeant, gunnery sergeant, master sergeant, or first sergeant, sergeant major, or master gunnery sergeant. Officer, second lieutenant, first lieutenant, captain, major, lieutenant colonel, colonel, brigadier general, major general, lieutenant general, general. She rattled it off without hesitation, without inflection, like reading a grocery list. The Marine stared. Ethan set down his beer. That's actually perfect. And meaningless, Blake cut in quickly. Anyone can memorize ranks. Doesn't mean she understands what they do. But uncertainty crept into his voice. This wasn't some civilian who had watched a few war movies. This was different. If you're already hooked by this story, do me a huge favor. Smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss the next jaw-dropping moment. Trust me, what happens next is absolutely insane. The Marines think they have this woman figured out, but they have no idea what they're about to witness. This is going to be one wild ride, and you do not want to miss a single second of it. Hit that like button if you're ready to see justice served. Mason pulled out his phone, fingers moving across the screen. What's your full name? I want to look you up. Hazel's expression didn't change. Just Hazel. Come on, really? Last name? Reed, she said after a pause. Hazel Reed. Mason typed, scrolled, frowned. Weird. Nothing's coming up. No Facebook, no Instagram, nothing. Some people value privacy, Hazel said. Or, Ivy suggested, voice sharp with suspicion, some people are hiding something. Blake leaned across the bar, invading Hazel's space. His hand landed on her shoulder, heavy and presumptuous. Here's what I think. I think you're playing games, acting mysterious, memorizing military stuff to seem interesting. But you know what? You're just a bartender, and you should remember that. His fingers pressed harder, not quite painful, but the message was clear. Dominance, control. Hazel looked at his hand. Her jaw tightened fractionally. Then she reached up, wrapped her fingers around his wrist, and removed his hand with steady pressure. Please don't touch me without permission. Her voice stayed quiet. But there was steel underneath it. Blake's face flushed. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I hurt the delicate flower? No, Hazel said. You didn't. Something in how she said it made Blake's confidence waver, like she was stating fact. Not that he couldn't hurt her, but that he hadn't succeeded in doing so. The distinction hung in the air between them. Connor, oblivious in his drunkenness, slapped the bar. Oh, she told you, Sarge. The little bartender's got claws. Floyd reappeared from the kitchen, assessed the situation in one glance. Everything okay here, folks? Just fine, Blake said, not breaking eye contact with Hazel. Just getting to know your employee, making conversation. Hazel, Floyd directed the question to her. I'm good, Floyd. Thanks. Floyd hesitated, then nodded and moved away. But Hazel saw him position himself near the end of the bar, staying within earshot. The dynamics had shifted. What started as casual mockery had become something else. A test, a challenge, a confrontation building towards something none of them could yet name. Ethan, always the most observant, studied Hazel's hands as she poured a draft beer for another customer. Calluses, specific ones. On her palms, at the base of her fingers, the kind you got from rope work. Serious rope work, climbing, rappelling, maybe. He'd seen similar marks on his own hands after mountain warfare training. You work out a lot? He asked, tone casual but eyes sharp. Sometimes. What kind of workouts? Climbing? You climb? Hazel's pause lasted half a second too long. I run. Swim. Interesting combination, Ethan said. Running and swimming, very comprehensive cardio. He didn't say what he was thinking. That's a Bud's training profile, but he filed the information away. The front door opened, bringing in a gust of cool evening air. Sheriff Henry Crawford stepped inside, off duty but still carrying himself with law enforcement authority. 54 years old, ex-Army Ranger, he'd retired from active service after taking shrapnel in Fallujah. Now he kept the peace in civilian life. He scanned the bar with professional thoroughness, nodded to Floyd, then his gaze landed on the situation developing at the counter. His expression tightened. Henry, Floyd called out. Usual spot? Yeah, thanks. But Henry didn't move to his usual table. He stayed standing near the door, positioned with clear line of sight to the bar, watching. Blake noticed the new arrival, clocked the authoritative bearing, and adjusted his approach. He lowered his voice slightly, leaned back from the bar. But he wasn't done. All right, Hazel Reed who likes her privacy, he said. Let's try something practical. Real-world application. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a challenge coin, thick, heavy, the Marine Corps emblem embossed on one side. He slid it across the bar. You know what this is? Hazel glanced at it. Challenge coin. Very good. And what's the tradition? If someone presents one, you have to show yours or buy a round. Excellent, Blake grinned, triumphant. So, since you clearly don't have one, you owe us drinks, right guys? The other Marines chuckled, raising their bottles. Hazel's expression didn't change. I'm working. Bar doesn't participate in challenges during shift. Convenient, Ivy muttered. But Blake wasn't finished. He pulled out his phone, scrolled, then set it on the bar showing a photo. See this? Fallujah, 2007. That's me, age 19, clearing buildings. Real combat. Real service. He looked at Hazel with challenge in his eyes. What have you done? Served some drinks? Memorized some jargon? That's not service, that's cosplay. The insult hung heavy. Several nearby customers shifted uncomfortably. Even Connor, drunk as he was, seemed to sense Blake had crossed a line. Hazel picked up a glass, began polishing it with slow, deliberate movements. When she spoke, her voice carried across the bar, quiet but clear. Service doesn't need to announce itself. What's that supposed to mean? Blake demanded. It means, Hazel said, still polishing, that the people who've done the most usually talk about it the least. Blake's face darkened. You calling me a fake? I'm saying, Hazel set down the glass with precise care, that real warriors don't need to prove themselves to bartenders. The subtle shift in her wording, acknowledging what she appeared to be while simultaneously elevating him, should have diffused the situation. But Blake was too far committed, too deep into his performance for his friends. You think you're smart, he said, but you're just... A sudden commotion cut him off. Oscar Walsh, in the corner booth, jerked violently. His hand knocked over his ginger ale, glass tumbling to the floor and shattering. His body went rigid, convulsing. He's seizing! Someone shouted. For 2 seconds, everyone froze. Then Hazel moved. She vaulted over the bar, not climbed over, vaulted, hands on the polished wood, body clearing it in one smooth motion, and crossed the 15 feet to Oscar's booth in under 3 seconds. By the time the nearest customer had processed what was happening, Hazel was already there. She dropped to one knee beside Oscar, hands moving with practiced speed, turned him onto his left side, supporting his head, checking his airway with 2 fingers. Oscar, can you hear me? No response. She put her fingers to his carotid, counted silently. Pulse 120. Respiration shallow but present. Pupils. She lifted one eyelid carefully. Pupils reactive. Levi Anderson, a Navy corpsman who'd been sitting quietly at a back table, rushed over. I'm Doc Anderson, Navy. What have we got? Hazel didn't look up, keeping her focus on Oscar. Adult male, approximately 65 years, tonic-clonic seizure, currently in post-ictal phase. Pulse elevated but steady, airway clear, no visible trauma, history of stroke, prescribed blood thinners. Levi stared at her. That wasn't civilian first aid language. That was medical professional terminology. You've done this before. I've seen seizures. Hazel's hands moved to check Oscar's vitals again, positioning him with exact precision to keep his airway open. We need an ambulance. Can someone... I've got it, Floyd called out, already dialing 911. But Hazel was already reaching for the radio clipped to Floyd's belt. He'd come around the bar to help, and she keyed it with automatic familiarity. Requesting ambulance at the Anchor Bar and Grill, 234 Pacific Coast Highway. Medical emergency, adult male, seizure, patient stable, requiring immediate transport. Coordinates 32.715, 8 north, 117.1542 west. She gave GPS coordinates, from memory, with military precision. The bar had gone completely silent. Every eye was on Hazel as she maintained Oscar's position, monitoring his breathing, her hands steady and sure. Levi knelt beside her, pulling out a basic med kit someone had handed him, but he wasn't taking over. He was assisting, following her lead. How long since onset? Levi asked. 90 seconds, Hazel said without checking a watch. Duration approximately 40 seconds. No recurrence yet. Oscar's breathing steadied. His eyes fluttered open, confused and frightened. What happened? You had a seizure, Oscar, Hazel said, voice gentle now. Stay still. Ambulance is coming. You're going to be fine. Hazel? Oscar's voice was weak. You knew what to do. Just first aid, she said. But her hands told a different story, checking pressure points, examining his extremities for injury, assessing him with the thoroughness of someone with serious medical training. The ambulance arrived 6 minutes later. Paramedics rushed in with equipment and a gurney. Hazel briefed them without standing up, rattling off Oscar's vitals, seizure duration, medical history, current medications. The lead paramedic, a woman in her 40s, took notes rapidly. "You medical personnel?" the paramedic asked. "I've had training," Hazel said carefully. "Well, your training probably saved his life. Perfect positioning, good assessment. We'll take it from here." They loaded Oscar onto the gurney. As they wheeled him past, he reached out and caught Hazel's hand weakly. "Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome, Oscar. They'll take good care of you." The ambulance left, sirens fading into the distance. The bar slowly returned to life, conversations resuming, drinks being sipped, the pool table clacking in the back. But the Marines at the counter sat frozen, staring at Hazel as she returned behind the bar. She washed her hands with methodical care, scrubbing under her nails, between her fingers, up to her elbows like surgical prep. Field decontamination procedure. Then she dried them on a clean towel and resumed her position behind the counter as if nothing had happened. Blake broke the silence first. "Where did you learn that?" Hazel didn't look at him. "Red Cross certification." "That wasn't Red Cross," Ethan said slowly. "That was combat medic level. Maybe better." "I took an advanced course," Hazel said. "What course?" Ivy pressed. "Where?" Hazel just shook her head. "Does anyone need a refill?" But the dynamic had fundamentally changed. The Marines weren't mocking anymore. They were evaluating, reassessing. The pieces didn't add up. The military bearing, the terminology, the medical expertise, the way she'd moved. Not like someone who'd taken a weekend first aid class, like someone who'd done it under fire. Connor, sobering up rapidly, studied Hazel with new eyes. "You stand like my drill instructor. Has anyone ever told you that?" Hazel's posture shifted immediately, deliberately slouching. "I don't know what you mean." But it was too late. They'd seen it. The automatic parade rest, the tactical awareness, the controlled breathing, the way she'd vaulted that bar like someone half her size wasn't an obstacle. The confidence in high-pressure crisis. Mason was back on his phone, searching more thoroughly now. "I can't find anything on you. Like, nothing. No social media, no public records beyond basic stuff. It's like you don't exist online." "Some people prefer privacy," Hazel repeated. "Or," Blake said slowly, his earlier arrogance replaced with something more dangerous. Suspicion edged with wounded pride. "Some people have reasons to hide." Dr. Amber Collins sat at a small table near the back, sipping red wine, watching the scene unfold with professional interest. A VA psychologist who specialized in PTSD treatment, she recognized trauma responses when she saw them, and Hazel Reed displayed several: hypervigilance, controlled affect, careful monitoring of exits and threats, startle response suppression. But she also showed something else. Not just trauma, but training. Deep, extensive training that had become muscle memory. Amber caught Hazel's eye across the bar, gave her a small, knowing smile. Hazel's expression flickered, recognition, maybe gratitude, before returning to neutral. Blake pulled another challenge coin from his pocket, this one different, heavier, darker metal. "You know what this one is?" Hazel glanced at it. Recognition flashed across her face before she could hide it. "That's Marine Raider," Ethan said, watching her reaction. "Very specific unit. And you knew what it was. Didn't have to think about it." "I've seen coins before," Hazel said. "Not like this one," Blake pressed. "This isn't something civilians see. Hell, most Marines haven't seen this. But you recognized it instantly." Silence stretched. Hazel's hands, resting on the bar, showed fresh scars along the forearms, now that her sleeves had ridden up during Oscar's treatment. Not kitchen burns, not accident scars, deliberate, patterned marks, the kind left by specific injuries. Ivy leaned forward, examining them. "Those look like—" Hazel pulled her sleeves down quickly. "Cooking accidents." "Those aren't cooking accidents," Ivy said flatly. "Those are—" She trailed off, uncertain. But Ethan knew. He'd seen similar scarring on operators who'd survived IED blasts. Shrapnel patterns, fragments embedded and removed, the distinctive webbing of tissue damage from explosive force. His voice went very quiet. "When did you serve?" "I didn't." "You're lying." "Not aggressive now. just stating fact. Everything about you says military. The way you move, the way you assess threats, the way you handled that medical crisis. This isn't civilian behavior. This is operator behavior. Hazel met his eyes, held his gaze, said nothing. Blake's phone buzzed. He glanced at it. Response from someone at the base. His face went pale as he read. Then he looked up at Hazel with completely different eyes. "I texted a friend," he said slowly. "Asked him to run your name through the database." "Blake," Ethan started. "It came back restricted access, clearance required, for a bartender." Blake's voice rose slightly. "Why would a civilian's records be classified?" The Marines all stared at Hazel now, not mocking, not dismissive, trying to understand what stood in front of them. Hazel's jaw tightened. "I'd like to get back to work." "Who are you?" Ivy demanded. "Really?" "I'm a bartender." "That's not an answer," Blake said. Captain Foster stood from his booth, Grace watching with concern. He approached the bar slowly, command presence filling the space around him. The Marines noticed, straightened automatically in their seats. Foster stopped beside Blake, looked at Hazel, then at Blake. "Is there a problem here, Staff Sergeant?" Blake hesitated. "Sir, we were just asking questions." "I can see that." Foster turned to Hazel. "Are these Marines bothering you, miss?" "No, sir, it's fine." Foster studied her, noted the "sir" came automatically, noted her stance, her bearing. He'd commanded Marines for 20 years. He knew what training looked like. And this woman, despite her civilian clothes and quiet demeanor, had it in spades. "If you need assistance," he said carefully, "I'm Captain Foster, 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines. That's my wife Grace in the booth. We're here if you need us." "Thank you, Captain. I appreciate that." The formal response, the proper acknowledgement of rank without being told his position. Foster's eyes narrowed fractionally. He nodded and returned to his booth, but he didn't sit down. He stood beside it, watching. Ethan pulled out his own phone now, trying different searches. Hazel Reed plus military, Hazel Reed plus Navy, Hazel Reed plus special operations. Nothing useful came up, just the same basic information. 32 years old, San Diego resident for 3 years, employed at the Anchor, no public social media presence. But then he tried something different. He searched for female Navy SEAL. The first image that came up was old news article from 3 years ago. Headline about the first woman to complete BUDS. No name given, no clear photo, privacy protection. But there was a description. 5'6", athletically built, estimated age late 20s to early 30s at the time. He looked at Hazel. 5'6", athletic despite her small frame. 32 now, which would make her 29 3 years ago. "No," he breathed. "No way." "What?" Blake leaned over to see his phone. Ethan angled it away. He needed more information before he made this accusation. If he was right, God, if he was right, they'd been mocking a legend. But if he was wrong, he'd just insulted a civilian bartender with wild speculation. Oscar pulled out a medical alert device from his jacket, one of those advanced systems that automatically contacts emergency services and provides GPS coordinates. After his stroke last year, his doctor recommended getting one of these. The device monitors heart rate, detects falls, and connects directly to a 24/7 response center. For veterans living alone, these systems can be life-saving. Oscar kept his clipped to his belt at all times now. Smart decision that probably saved his life tonight. Mason decided to test differently. "Okay, tactical question. Say you're clearing a room, limited visibility, 2 exits, unknown number of hostiles. What's your approach?" Hazel shouldn't have answered, should have said she didn't know, played dumb, maintained her cover. But the question hit automatic response triggers, and the answer came out before she could stop it. Fatal funnel is your first problem. You don't rush through the door. That's where they expect you. You pie the corners, slice the room in sections, sector discipline with your team. One covers high, one covers low. Communication is hand signals if you've maintained noise discipline. Check your corners, clear your 6, move with purpose, but don't rush. Speed gets you killed. Precision keeps you alive. The bar went silent again. That wasn't textbook answer. That was operator doctrine. Specific, detailed, the language of someone who had actually done it. "Where did you learn that?" Ivy whispered. Hazel's eyes closed briefly. When she opened them, her expression had hardened. "I need to get back to work." "No." Blake's voice wasn't aggressive anymore. It was almost pleading. "No, you need to tell us. Please, we're We're sorry if we were jerks, but seriously, who are you? Before Hazel could answer, Connor stood up, too fast, drunk legs unsteady, and stumbled forward. He caught himself on the bar, accidentally grabbing Hazel's wrist to steady himself. Bad move. Hazel's body shifted instantly into defensive posture, not fighting, but ready. Her free hand came up in a block position, her weight distributed perfectly for evasive movement. It lasted less than a second before she forced herself to relax, but everyone saw it. That wasn't surprise reflex. That was combat training. Connor released her immediately, hands up. Sorry, I'm just drunk. Didn't mean... It's fine. Hazel's voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly now, not from fear, from adrenaline she was forcing back down. Sheriff Crawford had seen enough. He moved toward the bar, positioning himself between the Marines and Hazel without being obvious about it. Evening, folks. Everyone doing okay? Yes, sir, Ethan said automatically. Good. Let's keep it that way. Crawford's tone was friendly, but his stance made his message clear. He wasn't going to let this escalate. Floyd reappeared from the back office, having watched the last exchange on the security monitors. He approached Hazel quietly. You okay? I'm fine. You don't look fine. You want to take a break? Go outside for a few minutes? Floyd, I'm okay. Really. But Floyd had known Hazel for 3 years. He'd hired her specifically because he recognized what others didn't. The signs of someone trying to rebuild after trauma, trying to find normal again. He'd been Navy himself, a chief petty officer, 30 years of service. He knew what operators looked like when they were trying to blend in. And he had given Hazel the job knowing exactly who she was, because sometimes warriors needed a place to heal. If you need me, he said quietly, I'm here. Hazel's eyes met his. Gratitude there, and something else. Trust. Thank you. Blake's phone buzzed again. This time, the response was different. Direct. From his unit commander. Morrison, what the hell are you doing? Read Hazel M. File exists but JSOC classified. Do not pursue. Repeat. Do not pursue. Whatever you think you know, drop it immediately. That's an order. Blake's hands went numb. JSOC, Joint Special Operations Command. That wasn't regular military. That was Tier 1 operators. SEALs, Delta, Rangers, the units that didn't officially exist in public records. He showed the message to Ethan without a word. Ethan read it twice, looked at Hazel, back at the phone. Oh my God. What? Ivy demanded. What does it say? Ethan handed her the phone. Ivy read, face draining of color. She passed it to Connor, who sobered up instantly. Mason read it last, then very carefully set down his beer and stepped back from the bar. The 5 Marines stood in a loose line, staring at Hazel, understanding dawning in horrified increments. They had spent the last hour mocking someone whose file was classified at the highest levels, someone whose name appeared in JSOC databases, someone who'd done things they couldn't even imagine. Before we continue, quick question. Are you Team Hazel or Team Marines right now? Drop a comment and let me know. And if you're loving this story so far, please share it with someone who appreciates strong women proving doubters wrong. Hit that like button to support more stories like this one. Hazel saw their expressions change, saw the moment they understood. She closed her eyes, shoulders sagging slightly. The secret she'd protected for 2 years, the anonymity she'd fought to maintain, was crumbling. Look, she said quietly, whatever you think you know, you're JSOC, Blake interrupted. You were. I'm a bartender, Hazel said firmly. That's all I am now. That's not all you are, Ethan said, voice filled with something like awe. That's not even close to all you are. Grace Patterson approached the bar now, her nursing instincts engaged. She had noticed Hazel's hands shaking, delayed stress response from the medical emergency with Oscar. Honey, do you want some water? You should sit down for a minute. I'm fine, thank you. You're not fine, Grace said gently. You just handled a major medical crisis, and now you're dealing with whatever this is. Please, sit down, just for a minute. Hazel looked at Grace, saw the kindness there, the professional concern, and something in her defenses cracked slightly. Okay, just for a minute. Floyd guided Hazel to a stool on the customer side of the bar, got her water, stood protective beside her. The Marines kept their distance now, uncertain how to proceed. They'd pushed hard for answers, and now that they had partial confirmation, they didn't know what to do with the information. Lily approached with her tray, placed it on the bar, and stood beside Hazel in silent solidarity. She didn't know the details, but she knew her friend was hurting. That was enough. Dr. Amber Collins rose from her table and walked over. Hazel, I'm Dr. Collins. I work at the VA. If you ever want to talk, my door is open. No pressure, no requirements, just an offer. Hazel nodded, unable to speak. The atmosphere in the anchor had shifted completely. What started as casual Friday night noise had become something else. A strange, tense silence broken only by whispered conversations and the distant sound of traffic outside. Mason's phone lit up with a notification. He glanced at it, then pulled up LinkedIn. Found something. Different Hazel Reed. Says she was Air Force Security Forces. Medical discharge 2018. He showed the profile to Blake. That must be her. That explains the medical training, the military knowledge. She's Air Force. Blake grabbed onto this explanation like a lifeline. It made sense. It fit the facts without being impossible. Yeah, that makes sense. Air Force Security Forces, they get combat medic training, weapons training, all of it. Could be, Ethan said, but he didn't sound convinced. Ivy wanted to believe it. So, we were right that she served, just not the branch we thought. The Marines relaxed fractionally, accepting this narrative. It explained everything without forcing them to confront the more disturbing possibility that they'd spent an hour bullying one of the most elite warriors in the American military. Hazel heard them talking, heard them settling on the wrong answer, and she felt relief. Let them believe she was ex-Air Force. Let them think they'd figured it out. Better than the truth. But Ethan wasn't satisfied. He kept watching Hazel, kept cataloging details. The scars weren't right for Air Force. The reaction speed was too high, the terminology too specific. And that JSOC classification, Air Force Security Forces didn't get JSOC flags. That was reserved for something else entirely. Floyd had recently updated his business insurance policy, the kind that covers liability, property damage, and even loss of income if something forces the bar to close temporarily. His insurance agent recommended additional coverage specifically for establishments near military bases, where incidents could escalate quickly. The premiums were higher, but the comprehensive protection was worth it. Smart business owners know that one lawsuit or major incident can destroy years of work. Floyd's policy even covered legal defense costs, which gave him peace of mind running a bar in this location. The front door opened again. 5 men entered, not loud, not aggressive, just purposeful. They wore civilian clothes, but everything about them screamed military. Close-cropped hair, athletic builds, eyes that swept the room with tactical assessment. The leader was tall, maybe 6'2", with gray threading his dark hair. He carried himself with the confidence of someone who'd commanded in combat. Floyd saw them first. His expression shifted from concern to something else, recognition. The 5 men scanned the bar, cataloging threats, exits, civilians. Then the leader's gaze landed on Hazel. He stopped walking, just stood there, 10 feet from the bar, staring. The entire bar felt the shift in energy. Conversations trailed off. Everyone turned to look at the newcomers. The leader's voice carried across the sudden silence. "Lieutenant Reed?" Hazel's head came up sharply. Her eyes met his. 1,000 emotions flickered across her face in rapid succession. Recognition, fear, resignation, something like relief. She didn't respond, didn't confirm, just sat frozen on her stool. "We're getting close to the big reveal, and I promise you, it's worth the wait. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time, because this channel delivers epic stories like this every single week. Hit that notification bell so you're first in line when the next story drops. Now, let's get back to it." The man's expression softened. "Hazel, it's me, Hawk, Archer Patterson, SEAL Team 5. Hazel's breath caught. "Hawk," she whispered. "We've been looking for you for 2 years, Archer said, moving slowly closer. "Your team, the community, everyone." Blake stood abruptly, understanding clicking into place with devastating clarity. "SEAL Team, you said, you're Navy SEALs?" Archer glanced at him, noting the Marine insignia on Blake's jacket. "Lieutenant Commander Archer Patterson, SEAL Team 5. He looked back at Hazel. "Permission to approach, ma'am?" The ma'am hit like a bomb. A SEAL officer calling someone ma'am meant rank, meant respect, meant this woman outranked him or had earned courtesy through actions that demanded it. Hazel stood slowly. Her posture changed. Not dramatic, but definitive. The slight slump disappeared. Her shoulders squared, her spine straightened. She stood at attention without conscious thought, 3 years of civilian life falling away in an instant. At ease, Commander. Archer and his 4 teammates relaxed into parade rest, but their eyes never left Hazel. The respect in their faces was absolute, unmistakable. Mason's voice came out strangled. She's not Air Force. No, Ethan said, realization crashing over him. She's not. Ivy's hands covered her mouth. Oh no. Oh God, no. Blake couldn't move, couldn't process what was happening. Because if this woman was Navy, and if she was connected to SEAL Team 5, and if JSOC had her name flagged, then there was only one explanation. One impossible, terrifying explanation. Archer addressed the room, his command voice filling the space. Everyone here should know something. The woman you've been talking to, the bartender who served your drinks, her name is Lieutenant Hazel Reed. She's SEAL Team 7, retired, and you're looking at the first female to ever complete BUD/S training. The silence was absolute. No one breathed, no one moved. She also, Archer continued, completed Hell Week twice. Once as a student, once as an evaluator, because the Navy wanted to verify whether standards needed to be adjusted for female candidates. He paused. They didn't. She met every standard, beat most of the times, never asked for special treatment. Lily's hand found Hazel's, squeezed tight. You never said anything. I didn't want anyone to know, Hazel said quietly. Why? It was Connor who asked, voice thick with emotion and alcohol and shame. Why wouldn't you want people to know? Hazel looked at him. Because I wanted to be normal, just for a little while. I wanted to serve drinks and not think about missions and dead teammates and decisions I can't take back. I wanted to be Hazel. Not Lieutenant Reed, not the first female SEAL, just Hazel. Blake stumbled backward, colliding with his stool. It clattered to the floor. We mocked you. I dumped beer on you. I grabbed your shoulder. I said... He couldn't finish. The horror of what they'd done settled on all 5 Marines like physical weight. Ivy was crying. We questioned your knowledge. We treated you like you were playing dress-up. You've done more than we'll ever do. You're a legend. I'm not a legend, Hazel said. I'm tired, and I'm trying to heal. And you all made that very hard tonight. Captain Foster approached, came to full attention, rendered a sharp salute. Lieutenant Reed, Captain Daniel Foster, 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines. On behalf of the United States Marine Corps, I apologize for the behavior you've been subjected to. These Marines do not represent our values. Hazel returned the salute. Muscle memory, textbook, perfect. Thank you, Captain. Foster turned to Blake and the others. You 5, outside, now. They filed out silently, heads down, faces showing the full weight of their shame. Foster followed, and through the window, everyone could see him reading them the riot act, voice too low to hear, but body language making his fury absolutely clear. Inside the bar, Archer approached Hazel carefully. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to blow your cover, but when I walked in and saw you, We've missed you, Hazel. The team. The community. You disappeared, and we didn't know if you were okay. I needed to disappear, Hazel said. After Yemen. I know. Yemen. Archer's voice softened. Operation Silent Shepherd. August 2019. You pulled 3 of my teammates out when the compound collapsed. You carried them through 2 clicks of hostile fire. They're alive because of you. Hazel's eyes closed. I lost 3 that day. 3 of my own team. I know, we all know, and we're sorry. It wasn't your fault. Wasn't yours either. Hazel didn't respond. The guilt she carried was visible in the set of her shoulders, the way she couldn't meet his eyes. Survivor's guilt, the weight that comes from living when your brothers and sisters didn't. Archer reached into his jacket and pulled out a challenge coin. Not Marine Corps, not generic. This was SEAL Team 5, heavy bronze, the trident emblem raised in relief. He set it on the bar in front of Hazel. For Yemen. You're honorary Team 5 now. Wherever you are, whatever you need, we've got your back. Hazel stared at the coin, picked it up with trembling fingers. Thank you. We've got your back, Archer repeated. But, Hazel, the community needs you. Not necessarily back in the field, but visible. 3 more women are in the BUD/S pipeline right now. They need to know it's possible. They need to see you. I'm not a poster, Hazel said. No. You're a warrior who survived the cost. That's what they need to see. That strength isn't just physical, that you can be elite and human. That you can do the impossible and still be okay on the other side. Hazel clutched the challenge coin, tears running down her face now. 3 years of isolation and silence finally breaking. I'm not okay. I'm really not okay. Then let us help, Archer said. The team, the community. Dr. Collins over there, Floyd, these people who care about you. Stop carrying this alone. Outside, the conversation was reaching its conclusion. Captain Foster's voice finally rose loud enough to hear through the window. Minimum NJP, probable loss of rank, and you're damn lucky she's not filing formal complaints. You harassed a decorated SEAL operator, a living legend. You disrespected someone who has given more to this country than you'll give in your entire careers. Do you understand? Yes, sir, 5 voices responded in unison. Get out of my sight. Report to your CO at 0600 Monday. I'll be recommending full disciplinary proceedings. The Marines dispersed into the parking lot, shell-shocked and shamed. Foster returned inside, came to Hazel. Lieutenant, my deepest apologies. That behavior is inexcusable. They didn't know, Hazel said. That's not an excuse. They should have respected you regardless, but they especially should have recognized a fellow warrior. He paused. My wife Grace would like to speak with you when you're ready. She was Navy nurse, saw combat in Afghanistan. She understands some of what you're carrying. Thank you, Captain. The bar gradually returned to life, but everything had changed. Word spread fast in military communities, and within an hour, veterans across the base knew that Hazel Reed, the quiet bartender at the Anchor, was a retired SEAL, the first female SEAL, a Navy Cross recipient who'd saved lives in combat and paid a terrible price for it. They started arriving, not loudly, not demanding attention, just coming in, ordering drinks, waiting for a quiet moment to approach the bar, to shake her hand, to thank her, to tell her their own stories of struggle and survival. The Anchor became a place of pilgrimage that night, warriors finding one of their own, offering solidarity without words. Hazel stood behind the bar again, Floyd beside her, serving drinks and accepting gratitude with quiet grace. She'd wanted anonymity, wanted to hide, but maybe Archer was right. Maybe the community needed her visible. Maybe she needed the community. A young woman in Marine Corps fatigues approached the bar, nervous energy rolling off her in waves. Lieutenant Reed, I'm Private First Class Rachel Kim. I'm thinking about trying for Marine Recon. Do you think I can do it? Hazel studied her, saw the hunger there, the determination, but also the fear. The same fear Hazel had felt standing on the beach at Coronado, staring at Hell Week and wondering if she was strong enough. Can you suffer? Hazel asked. Yes, ma'am. Can you refuse to quit? Yes, ma'am. Can you hold yourself to the same standards as everyone else, knowing people will judge you harder because of your gender? Rachel's jaw set. Yes, ma'am, I can. Then you can do it. Hazel reached across the bar, shook her hand with firm pressure. The only thing that matters is the work. Do the work. Demand nothing but opportunity. Prove them wrong every day. And when you feel like quitting, ma'am, don't. Rachel's face lit up. Thank you. Thank you so much. As Rachel walked away, Floyd bumped his shoulder against Hazel's. You're good at that. At what? Inspiring people. Being what they need to see. Hazel didn't answer. Just served the next customer, folded towels with precise corners, maintained her quiet competence. But something had shifted. The weight she'd carried for 3 years felt fractionally lighter. Archer lingered at the bar with his teammates, ordering food, settling in. Not watching Hazel overtly, but maintaining presence, offering protection through proximity. These men understood combat trauma, understood the need for support structures. They'd stay as long as Hazel needed them to. Sheriff Crawford approached the SEAL Team 5 table, introduced himself, shared his Ranger background. They talked shop quietly, building the bonds that form between warriors across service branches, brotherhood and shared experience. Dr. Amber Collins caught Hazel during a quiet moment. That offer still stands. Whenever you're ready. Maybe I'm ready now, Hazel said. Amber smiled. Monday, 10 a.m. My office at the VA. We'll talk. No pressure? No pressure, just conversation. 2 people talking. Okay, I'll be there. As the evening wore on, the initial shock faded into something else. Community, respect, connection. The bar that had been Hazel's hiding place became something more, a gathering point for warriors finding their way back to civilian life, a safe space where strength and vulnerability could coexist. Blake and the other Marines didn't return, but Hazel received a text message at 2100 hours. Lieutenant Reed, this is Staff Sergeant Blake Morrison. I cannot adequately express how sorry I am for my behavior tonight. There is no excuse. I've submitted a formal apology through my chain of command and requested all appropriate disciplinary action. You deserved better. You deserved honor. I failed to provide either. I hope someday you can forgive me. Semper Fi. Hazel stared at the message for a long moment. Then she typed back, "Apology accepted. Use this to do better. Teach others to do better. Service isn't about who can shout loudest or prove hardest. It's about doing the work and respecting others doing theirs. Good luck, Staff Sergeant." She hit send and pocketed her phone. Floyd closed the bar at 2300 hours, ushering out the last customers. Archer and his team stayed until the end, helping clean up, stack chairs, take out trash. They didn't need to. They wanted to. This was how SEALs showed care, through action, through presence, through service. "You need a ride home?" Archer asked as they finished. "I live upstairs," Hazel said. "Floyd rents me the apartment." "Of course he does," Archer smiled. "Take care of yourself, Hazel. And remember, you're not alone. You've got numbers saved in your phone. Use them." "I will." "Promise?" "Promise." Archer pulled her into a brief, fierce hug. "We're proud of you. Every operator who knows your story is proud. Don't forget that." They left, SUVs pulling out of the parking lot into San Diego's late-night traffic. Hazel stood alone in the empty bar, lights dimmed, chairs stacked on tables. The place looked different now. Or maybe she looked different. The secret was out. The hiding was over. And somehow, despite everything, she felt lighter. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, then saw the prefix code, JSOC restricted. Her heart rate spiked. She stared at the screen as it rang once, twice, 3 times. Floyd emerged from the back office, saw her frozen with phone in hand. "You okay?" "Phone call," Hazel whispered. "From JSOC." Floyd's expression hardened. "You don't have to answer. 4th ring, 5th ring. They only call for one reason," Hazel said. "When they need you. You're retired. You're healing. You don't owe them anything." 6th ring. Hazel's finger hovered over the answer button. She thought about Yemen, about her 3 teammates who didn't make it home, about unfinished business and missions that never really end, about the oath she'd taken and the warrior she'd been before exhaustion and trauma forced her retreat. Outside, a black SUV pulled into the parking lot. No headlights. It idled there, engine running, 2 figures visible in the front seats, just watching. "Hazel," Floyd said quietly, "you've got company." She looked up, saw the SUV, professional surveillance, government vehicle, not hostile, but not friendly either, waiting. 7th ring. Archer's words echoed, "We've got your back. Dr. Collins's offer, my door is open. Rachel's hope, do you think I can do it?" The phone rang an 8th time. Hazel drew a deep breath, made her decision. Her thumb moved toward the screen, and the story of Lieutenant Hazel Reed, the quiet bartender who had survived Hell Week twice and carried secrets too heavy for civilian life, was about to take a turn none of them expected. Hazel's thumb hovered over the answer button. 8th ring. The phone vibrated in her palm like something alive, demanding response. Through the window, the black SUV idled in the parking lot, exhaust visible in the cool night air, 2 silhouettes watching and waiting. Floyd moved to her side. "You don't have to answer. You're retired. You've given enough." 9th ring. "Have I?" Hazel's voice was barely audible. 3 teammates didn't come home from Yemen. Maybe I haven't given enough. Maybe I owe them. "You don't owe anyone your destruction," Floyd interrupted firmly. "You owe yourself healing. You owe yourself life." 10th ring. Hazel looked at the phone, at the SUV, at Floyd's weathered face filled with concern. She thought about Rachel, the young Marine who had asked if she could make it through recon. About Crystal, the female SEAL candidate who needed to see what was possible. About all the warriors struggling to find their way back to normal, who needed to know that survival after service was achievable. The phone stopped ringing. The silence felt enormous. Hazel exhaled slowly, lowering her hand. "I'm not ready. Not tonight." "Good," Floyd said. "That's good." But the SUV didn't leave. It stayed there, engine running, occupants waiting with the patience of professionals who had all night. "They're not going away," Hazel observed. "Then let them wait. Come on, let's finish closing up." They moved through the familiar routine, checking the register, wiping down surfaces, making sure everything was secure for the night. The normalcy of it steadied Hazel, reminded her why she'd chosen this life. Simple tasks, predictable patterns, no life or death decisions, no teammates depending on her split-second choices. Just cleaning and organizing and preparing for tomorrow. Her phone buzzed again. Not a call this time. A text message. Unknown number, but the prefix code marked it as originating from the same JSOC source. Lieutenant Reed, we understand you're not operational. This is not a recall. We need consultation on a situation that requires your specific expertise. Voluntary, compensated. Details require secure communication. Please respond when able. Command. Hazel stared at the message. Not a recall, consultation, voluntary. The words mattered. They weren't ordering her back. They were asking for help. She typed slowly. Need time to consider. Will respond within 48 hours. The reply came instantly. Understood. Take the time you need. The offer stands. You're still one of us, Lieutenant. That hasn't changed. Something in her chest loosened. You're still one of us. Not you were. Present tense. She was still part of the community, even standing here in civilian clothes behind a bar counter covered in beer rings and cocktail napkins. Floyd watched her expression shift. What is it? They're not demanding, they're asking. And I don't know what I'm going to say yet. That's fair. Floyd grabbed his jacket from the back office. Come on, I'll walk you upstairs. The apartment above the Anchor was small. One bedroom, kitchenette, bathroom, living area, barely large enough for a couch and television. But it had what Hazel needed. A door she could lock, windows she could monitor, and enough distance from ground level to feel secure. Military training never truly left. She still checked corners, still slept facing the door, still woke at the slightest unusual sound. Get some rest, Floyd said from the doorway. Tomorrow's going to be interesting. Word's spreading fast. I know. Hazel managed a weak smile. Thanks, Floyd, for everything, for giving me this job, for protecting my privacy, for... You don't need to thank me. Warriors look out for each other. That's how it works. After he left, Hazel stood at her window, looking down at the parking lot. The black SUV remained. She could see the glow of phone screens inside, the occupants staying alert, maintaining surveillance. Protective detail or intelligence collection? She couldn't tell. Maybe both. She pulled the curtains closed and sat on her couch in the dark, Archer's challenge coin clutched in her hand, thinking about Yemen and missions that never truly end, and phone calls from commands that knew exactly which buttons to push. Outside, the city hummed with late-night life. Inside, Hazel Reed tried to figure out who she was supposed to be. The warrior she'd been, the civilian she'd become, or something new and undefined that existed between the two. Sheptani Saturday morning arrived with bright California sunshine and the kind of perfect weather that made people forget their troubles. Hazel woke at 05:30 out of habit, did her workout routine in the apartment, push-ups, sit-ups, burpees, the movements automatic after 15 years of military discipline, then showered and dressed for her shift. The Anchor opened at 1100 hours on Saturdays. Hazel arrived at 10:30 to help Floyd prep. The black SUV was gone from the parking lot, replaced by regular weekend traffic. She felt both relief and vague disappointment at its absence. Inside, Floyd had already started coffee and was reviewing inventory. How'd you sleep? 3 hours, maybe? Nightmares? Memories, same difference. Floyd nodded understanding. He'd had his own demons after 30 years of service. Dr. Collins left her card on the bar, just in case you change your mind about Monday. Hazel picked up the business card, turned it over in her fingers. Amber Collins, Ph.D., Clinical Psychology. Veterans Affairs, a phone number, an email address, an office location. Simple, professional, non-threatening. I told her I'd be there, Hazel said. 10 a.m. Monday, I'm going. Good. That's really good, Hazel. They worked in comfortable silence, setting up for the day. At 1100 hours sharp, Floyd unlocked the front door. Within 5 minutes, customers began filtering in. And they were different from the usual Saturday crowd. Veterans, active-duty military, family members of service personnel. Word had spread through the military community overnight. Social media, text chains, unit communications. The quiet bartender at the Anchor was a legend. First female Navy SEAL, combat veteran, someone worth meeting. They came respectfully, ordered drinks, made small talk, and then, when they found the courage, they approached Hazel with handshakes and quiet thank yous and stories of their own struggles with service and sacrifice. A retired Army Ranger told her about his daughter, 12 years old, who wanted to be a Green Beret. Is it possible for girls? Anything's possible if she's willing to do the work, Hazel said. Physical standards, mental toughness, refusal to quit. Gender doesn't matter, performance does. That's what I told her, the ranger said, eyes grateful. But hearing it from you, that means something. A young Navy corpsman showed her photos of his prosthetic leg, IED blast in Syria, medical discharge at 23, struggling to find purpose. How do you do it? How do you keep going? One day at a time, Hazel said honestly. Some days are harder than others, but you find reasons. Small ones at first, then bigger ones. You find community, you find purpose. It doesn't happen all at once. The corpsman wiped his eyes. Thank you. I needed to hear that. By noon, the anchor was packed. Floyd had to call Lily in early to help with the crowd. The atmosphere wasn't loud or chaotic. It was reverent, respectful. People spoke in low voices, shared stories, found connection and shared experience. At 12:30, the front door opened and 5 Marines entered. Blake, Ivy, Ethan, Connor, and Mason. They wore dress uniforms, not required off duty, but a choice, a statement. They moved to the bar with military precision, stood at attention, waited for Hazel to acknowledge them. The entire bar went quiet. Hazel set down the glass she'd been wiping, looked at them. At ease. They relaxed slightly, but remained formal. Blake spoke for the group, voice clear and steady. Lieutenant Reed, ma'am, we're here to offer formal apology. Our behavior last night was unprofessional, disrespectful, and unbecoming of United States Marines. We have no excuse. We failed to honor a fellow warrior, and we failed to uphold the values of our service. We request the opportunity to make amends. Hazel studied them, saw genuine remorse in their faces. These weren't the cocky, dismissive Marines from last night. These were young warriors who'd made a mistake and were trying to fix it. Apology accepted, Hazel said quietly. What matters now is what you learn from this, how you grow, how you teach others to do better. Yes, ma'am, Blake said. We've already started. Our CO is implementing sensitivity training across the battalion, using last night as a case study. Permission to speak freely, ma'am? Granted. Ma'am, you've done something incredible. You've broken barriers that most people said were impossible, and we treated you like you were nothing, like your service didn't matter. That shame sits heavy, and it should. But we want you to know, we'll carry that forward. We'll be better Marines because of what you taught us. Ivy stepped forward. Ma'am, as a female Marine, I owe you an extra apology. I should have recognized strength regardless of setting. I should have known better. I let insecurity drive my actions, and that's inexcusable. Thank you for showing me what leadership actually looks like. Connor cleared his throat. Ma'am, I was drunk and stupid. Not an excuse, just fact. I dumped beer on a Navy SEAL. That's gonna haunt me for the rest of my life. But I'm getting help. No more drinking like that. No more making excuses. Mason and Ethan added their own words. Apologies, commitments to change, acknowledgments of the lesson learned. When they finished, the 5 Marines stood waiting for judgment. Hazel came around the bar, stood in front of them. Small woman facing 5 large Marines, but her presence filled the space. I was 19 years old when I decided I wanted to be a SEAL. Everyone told me it was impossible. My family, my friends, my recruiters. Women couldn't even try for special operations back then. But I knew I could do the work. I knew if someone just gave me the chance, I could prove it. She paused, making eye contact with each Marine in turn. It took years, policy changes, lawsuits, political pressure, and when they finally opened buds to women, I was first in line, 27 years old, everyone watching, everyone waiting for me to fail. Blake's jaw tightened. The instructors didn't go easy on me, Hazel continued. They went harder, because they wanted to prove women couldn't hack it. They wanted me to ring the bell, to quit, to validate their assumptions. And you know what? That was fair. Because special operations doesn't care about your feelings. Combat doesn't care about equality. The enemy doesn't give you handicaps. So I had to be as good as the men. Better, actually, because I was representing every woman who'd come after me. Ivy's eyes glistened with tears. I completed Hell Week. 106 hours of hell. Freezing water, sand everywhere, instructors screaming, body breaking down. 63 men started with me. 21 finished. I was one of them. Not because I got special treatment. Because I refused to quit. The bar was absolutely silent. Every person present hung on her words. And then 3 years later, Hazel's voice dropped, they asked me to do it again, to evaluate the program, to prove that standards hadn't been lowered. So I went through Hell Week a second time, at 30 years old. Older, joints damaged from years of operations, carrying injuries that never fully healed. And I finished again. Faster times than the first round in several evolutions. She stepped closer to Blake. You asked what I've done. I've cleared buildings in Fallujah, same as you. I've pulled wounded teammates through hostile fire in Yemen while taking rounds. I've made decisions that kept people alive and decisions that got people killed. I've earned every scar on my body and every nightmare that wakes me up at 3 a.m. I don't wear my service like a badge because I don't need external validation. I know what I've done, and the people who matter know what I've done. Blake's face had gone pale. Ma'am, I'm not finished, Hazel said firmly. You five made a mistake, a big one, but you're here, in dress uniforms, offering genuine apology and commitment to change. That takes courage. That shows character. So, here's what I'm going to tell you. Use this, learn from it, teach others, because the military is changing. More women are coming into combat roles, special operations, leadership positions, and they're going to face what I faced. Doubt, dismissal, harassment. They need allies. They need Marines like you to stand up and say, judge her by her performance, nothing else. Can you do that? Yes, ma'am, 5 voices responded in unison. Then we're good. Hazel held out her hand to Blake. Fresh start. Blake took it, his grip firm but respectful. Relief flooded his face. Thank you, ma'am. You're incredible. I'm just a person who refused to quit, Hazel corrected. That's all any of us are, people who keep going when it gets hard. The Marines filed out, lighter somehow, the weight of shame lifted through accountability and forgiveness. The bar erupted in quiet applause, not loud or showy, but genuine appreciation for the grace they'd just witnessed. Floyd grinned at Hazel from behind the bar. You're good at this. At what? Leadership, teaching, being what people need. Before Hazel could respond, there was another commotion. This time not conflict, but excitement. Petty Officer First Class Crystal Morgan entered wearing Navy PT gear, her face lit with nervous energy. Behind her trailed 3 other women, all young, all military, all looking at Hazel like she was a miracle. Crystal approached the bar with formal bearing. Lieutenant Reed, ma'am, I ship to Buds in 6 weeks. These are my training partners, all candidates. We were hoping we could ask you some questions about what to expect, how to prepare, how to survive. Hazel looked at the 4 young women, saw herself 15 years ago, hungry, determined, terrified of failure. What do you want to know? Everything, Crystal said. We want to know everything. Hazel glanced at Floyd. He nodded. Take your break. Back booth. I've got the bar. The 5 women crowded into the corner booth. Hazel on one side, the 4 candidates on the other. They pulled out notebooks, phones ready to record, eyes intense with focus. First thing you need to know, Hazel began, is that Buds will break you. Physically, mentally, emotionally. That's the point. They need to see how you respond when everything hurts and your body is screaming to quit. So, prepare for that. Don't fight it. Accept it. Pain is temporary. Quitting is permanent. Crystal scribbled notes frantically. What's the worst part of Hell Week? The cold, the water. It's 55 degrees and you're in it for hours at a time. Your body shuts down. You can't feel your hands or feet. You're shivering so hard you can't think straight. And the instructors keep you in there. Keep pushing, keep testing to see if you'll ring the bell. How do you fight the cold? You don't. You endure it. You find something inside yourself. A reason, a purpose, someone you're doing this for, and you hold on to that. For me, it was thinking about my little sister, 13 years old, watching to see if I'd make it. I couldn't quit because she was watching. I had to show her what was possible. One of the other candidates, a young woman with bright red hair, raised her hand. Ma'am, what about the instructors? Are they really trying to make women fail? Hazel considered her answer carefully. Some are. Some want to prove their assumptions right. But others are testing you the same way they test the men, pushing everyone to their limits to find who has the mental fortitude for special operations. Your job isn't to change their minds. Your job is to perform. Meet every standard. Excel where you can. Make your performance undeniable. Did anyone help you? Support you? A few instructors were fair, judged me on performance only. One in particular, Senior Chief Martinez, he pushed me harder than anyone, but he also gave me honest feedback, told me what I needed to improve, didn't coddle me, didn't sabotage me, just evaluated fairly. Those are the ones you remember. They talked for 40 minutes, Hazel sharing details about training, tactics for managing pain, strategies for team building, advice on nutrition and recovery. The candidates absorbed everything, asking sharp questions, thinking tactically about the challenge ahead. Last question, Crystal said. What happens after? After you graduate? After you join a team? After you've proven yourself? Does it ever stop being hard? Hazel was quiet for a moment. No, it gets different, but it doesn't get easier. You'll face new challenges, deployment stress, combat decisions, loss of teammates, the weight of responsibility, and then when you transition out, if you transition out, you'll face different battles, PTSD, survivor's guilt, finding purpose in civilian life. The fight doesn't end. It just changes shape. But it's worth it? Crystal pressed. Even knowing all that? Hazel met her eyes. Every single day, because you'll do things that matter. You'll save lives. You'll make a difference. You'll be part of something bigger than yourself. And when you look back, even with all the pain, you'll know you didn't waste your time on Earth. You'll know you gave everything for something that mattered. So, yeah, it's worth it. Crystal nodded, blinking back tears. Thank you, ma'am. We won't let you down. You're not doing this for me, Hazel corrected gently. You're doing it for yourselves, for the women who'll come after you, for the teams that need the best operators regardless of gender. Don't carry my legacy. Build your own. The candidates left with renewed determination, notebooks filled, spirits lifted. As they exited, several customers approached to shake Hazel's hand again, to share their own stories, to thank her for her service. It continued all afternoon, a steady stream of warriors finding connection, seeking wisdom, offering solidarity. The anchor transformed from a simple bar into something more significant, a gathering place for the military community, a space where service members could be vulnerable and strong simultaneously. At 1500 hours, Sheriff Crawford returned with news. Hazel, I did some checking on that SUV from last night. It was federal, Department of Defense, likely JSOC liaison. They were protective detail, not surveillance. Someone upstairs wanted to make sure you were safe. Safe from what? Can't say for sure. But when you're high-value personnel with classified background, sometimes the government likes to keep tabs. Make sure foreign intelligence isn't sniffing around. Make sure you're not compromised. Hazel absorbed this. High-value personnel. She'd been retired for 2 years, but apparently her knowledge and experience still mattered enough for protection. They're gone now. For now, but they'll be back if you answer that phone call. Captain Foster made a mental note to recommend updated sensitivity training for his unit. The Marine Corps had recently launched new educational programs focused on implicit bias, gender dynamics in military settings, and professional conduct. These weren't just check-the-box courses anymore. They used real case studies and interactive scenarios. Leadership development programs now emphasized emotional intelligence alongside tactical skills. Foster had seen firsthand how these programs improved unit cohesion and reduced disciplinary incidents. He'd be calling the training coordinator first thing Monday morning. At 1600 hours, the crowd finally thinned. Hazel took her break outside in the small alley behind the bar, breathing cool air, letting the afternoon sun warm her face. She was exhausted, not from physical labor, but from emotional exposure. All day she'd been vulnerable, open, sharing pieces of herself she'd kept locked away for years. Dr. Collins appeared beside her, holding 2 bottles of water. Thought you might need this. Thanks. Hazel accepted gratefully, drank deeply. You did something remarkable today, Amber said. You gave people hope, purpose, connection. That's powerful medicine. I'm not a doctor, no, but you're a healer in your own way. Sometimes people don't need therapy. They need someone who has been through hell and came out the other side. You're living proof that survival is possible. Hazel leaned against the brick wall. I still have nightmares. I still wake up reaching for weapons that aren't there. I still hear explosions that happened 3 years ago. I'm not cured. No one expects you to be cured, Amber said gently. Trauma isn't something you cure. It's something you learn to carry, and you're carrying it pretty well, all things considered. Some days are harder than others. That's normal, that's human. And that's exactly why people need to see you. Not perfect, not healed, just surviving and finding meaning anyway. They stood in comfortable silence, two women who understood different aspects of the same struggle, one who'd lived combat trauma, one who'd studied it professionally, both committed to helping warriors find their way forward. Monday, 10 a.m., Amber reminded her. We'll talk. No pressure, no agenda, just conversation. I'll be there, Hazel promised. The evening shift brought more customers. By 1800 hours, the anchor was packed again. Floyd hired extra security, 2 retired MPs who'd heard about the situation and offered their services free. They positioned themselves near the exits, maintaining order without being intrusive. At 1845 hours, exactly 24 hours after the previous night's confrontation, Archer Patterson returned. This time he brought his wife Grace, a woman in her late 30s with warm eyes and capable hands. The hands of someone who had held dying soldiers and delivered difficult news and carried her own weight of service. Hazel, Archer greeted her. This is my wife Grace. She wanted to meet you. Grace offered her hand. Lieutenant Reed, thank you for saving my husband's teammates in Yemen. We owe you everything. Hazel shook her hand. They saved me too. That's how it works. I know, but still, thank you. They took seats at the bar, ordered food and drinks. As Hazel worked, she noticed Archer watching her with thoughtful eyes. Finally, during a quiet moment, he leaned forward. You didn't answer the phone last night. No. But you're thinking about it. Hazel wiped down the counter, not looking at him. They said consultation, voluntary, not a recall. And I don't know if I'm ready to step back into that world, even for consultation. Archer nodded understanding. Can I tell you something? Not as SEAL Team 5, just as someone who's been where you are? Go ahead. The war doesn't end when you come home. You know that. The missions keep coming in different forms. And sometimes the thing you think will hurt you, going back, engaging again, that's actually the thing that helps you move forward. Not by reliving the past, but by using what you learned to shape the future. That's very philosophical. That's therapy talking. I've been seeing Dr. Collins for 2 years. Grace made me go after my 3rd deployment. Best decision I ever made. Hazel glanced at Grace, who nodded confirmation. He was drowning. Wouldn't admit it, but he was going under. The sessions pulled him back, gave him tools to process what he'd seen and done. It's not weakness, Archer added. It's maintenance. You maintain your weapons, your equipment, your physical fitness. Why not maintain your mental health? I'm going Monday, Hazel said. First appointment. Good, that's good. Archer took a sip of his beer. And about that phone call. You don't owe them anything. But you might owe yourself the chance to see what they want. Maybe it's something that helps. Maybe it closes a door that needs closing. You won't know until you engage. I told them 48 hours. Smart, take the time, but don't let fear make the decision. Let logic make it. Let your gut make it, but not fear. The wisdom resonated. Hazel had spent her entire SEAL career making decisions despite fear, jumping from helicopters, breaching doors, running toward gunfire when every instinct screamed to flee. Why should civilian life be different? At 2000 hours, the bar reached capacity. Floyd had to start a waiting list. The crowd was diverse now, not just military, but civilians curious about the story spreading through San Diego. News crews had called requesting interviews. Floyd had turned them all down. Hazel's privacy remained the priority, but at 20-30 hours, someone different arrived. Retired Colonel Raymond Morrison walked through the door with his grandson Mason Fletcher. The young Marine who had been part of last night's confrontation looked nervous, but the colonel moved with the confidence of someone who had commanded battalions in Vietnam and Iraq. Floyd intercepted them at the entrance. Colonel Morrison, heard you might be stopping by. I needed to meet the woman who taught my grandson an important lesson. Raymond's voice carried authority even in retirement. Is Lieutenant Reed available? Hazel appeared from behind the bar. Sir? Raymond studied her with experienced eyes. Saw the bearing, the scars, the weight she carried. He came to attention, rendered a crisp salute. Lieutenant Colonel Raymond Morrison, 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines, retired. I wanted to thank you for teaching my grandson what I should have taught him long ago. Hazel returned the salute. Your grandson apologized already, sir. He's a good Marine, just made a mistake. He made several mistakes, Raymond corrected firmly. He turned to Mason. Tell her. Mason stepped forward, back straight. Ma'am, my grandfather served in Vietnam. He's told me stories my whole life. Combat, sacrifice, brotherhood. But he never told me the most important story. What's that? About the female Marine who saved his platoon in 1968. He was 22, pinned down by enemy fire near Da Nang. Their radio operator was killed. No communication, no medevac, losing men by the hour. And then a female Marine from HQ, against orders, against regulations, commandeered a helicopter and flew in to extract them. She took fire. Aircraft was damaged, but she got them out. All 37 surviving Marines. Raymond's voice roughened. Her name was Lieutenant Sarah Morrison, my sister, Mason's great-aunt. She was court-martialed for disobeying orders, stripped of rank, dishonorably discharged, because women weren't supposed to be in combat, weren't supposed to fly rescue missions, weren't supposed to make command decisions. Hazel's breath caught. I didn't know. Most people don't. It was buried, covered up, forgotten. Raymond looked at his grandson. I never told Mason because I was ashamed. Ashamed that I let my sister be punished for saving my life. Ashamed that I didn't fight harder for her when she needed me. She died 10 years ago, bitter and forgotten, never receiving the recognition she deserved. Mason's voice cracked. And last night, I disrespected a female SEAL, questioned your service, mocked your sacrifice. While my great-aunt's story was sitting in my family history, teaching me exactly the lesson I needed to learn. Which is? Hazel asked gently. That courage doesn't have a gender, Mason said. That service is service, regardless of who performs it. That the warriors who deserve the most respect are often the ones who get the least. And that I needed to be better. Do better. Honor the legacy my great-aunt started, and you're continuing. Raymond pulled a faded photograph from his jacket, black and white, showing a young woman in Marine uniform standing beside a helicopter. This is Sarah. I want you to have this. Not as apology, but as connection. You're carrying forward what she started, and maybe knowing that will help, somehow. Hazel took the photo with trembling hands, looked at Sarah Morrison, strong jawline, determined eyes, slight smile that suggested she knew exactly how much trouble she was causing and didn't care. A warrior out of time. She would have loved knowing about you, Raymond continued, about Buds, about SEAL Team 7, about everything you've accomplished. She used to say the military would change, that one day women would be recognized for their capabilities, not limited by their gender. You're proof she was right. I'll keep this, Hazel said, emotion thick in her throat. And I'll remember her. Thank you for sharing her story. Raymond saluted again. Thank you for living your story, for being visible when it's easier to hide, for teaching young warriors like my grandson that excellence transcends all boundaries. They left together, grandfather and grandson, carrying forward a legacy that spanned generations. Around the bar, people wiped their eyes, moved by the connection between past and present, by the reminder that progress is built on sacrifice, often unrecognized until years later. Floyd appeared at Hazel's side. You okay? Yeah. Hazel clutched the photograph. Yeah, I'm okay. Better than okay. What did you think of that reveal? Drop your reaction in the comments. I love reading them. And if this story fired you up, you're going to love what's coming next week. We've got another incredible military story that'll blow your mind. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. The evening continued with more stories, more connections, more healing happening in the space between bar stools and beer bottles. At 2200 hours, Floyd finally called last call. The crowd thinned gradually, people lingering over final drinks and farewells. By 2300 hours, only a handful remained. Archer and Grace, Sheriff Crawford, Dr. Collins, Lily finishing her closing duties, and Hazel behind the bar, exhausted but somehow lighter than she'd been in years. You did good today, Floyd said as they cleaned up. Really good. This place means something now, means more than just drinks and conversation. It's a community center, a healing space. I didn't plan that. Best things never are planned. They just happen when the right people come together at the right time. Hazel's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, expecting another message from JSOC. But this was different. A text from Crystal, the SEAL candidate. "Ma'am, thank you for today. You gave us something we didn't know we needed. Permission to be scared and brave at the same time. We're going to make you proud. We promise." Hazel typed back, "You don't need to make me proud. Make yourselves proud. That's all that matters." 3 dots appeared. Then, "Roger that, ma'am. See you on the other side of Hell Week." "See you there," Hazel replied. Floyd locked the front door, flipped the sign to closed. "Come on, let's get you upstairs. You've had enough for one day." But before they could leave, headlights swept across the front windows. A vehicle pulled into the parking lot. Not the black SUV from last night. This was different. Military transport, marked with official insignia. Sheriff Crawford moved to the window. "That's base transportation. Official vehicle." The passenger door opened. A woman stepped out, 50 years old, gray hair and a severe bun, wearing navy dress uniform with enough ribbons to suggest a career spent in serious positions. She approached the door, knocked with authority. Floyd unlocked it. "We're closed, Commander. I'm here to see Lieutenant Reed. Official business." The woman's voice matched her bearing. Crisp, professional, brooking no argument. Hazel stepped forward. "I'm Reed." The woman's expression softened fractionally. "Lieutenant, I'm Commander Patricia Vincent, Naval Special Warfare Command. I need a few minutes of your time. May I come in?" Floyd looked at Hazel. She nodded. "It's okay." They sat at a corner table. Hazel, Commander Vincent, Floyd, hovering protectively nearby, Sheriff Crawford maintaining watchful distance. Vincent pulled a folder from her briefcase. "Lieutenant Reed, I'll be direct. The Navy has been reviewing female integration in special operations. Your record, your performance, your impact, they have become central to ongoing policy discussions. We'd like to offer you a position." "I'm retired. Not active duty," Vincent clarified. "Consulting, training, mentorship. We have 3 women currently in Bud's pipeline, 2 more in SEAL qualification training. They need guidance, role models, someone who's been through it and survived. We're offering a civilian contractor position. You'd work with female candidates, provide mentorship, assist with program development. Full benefits, competitive salary, flexible schedule." Hazel stared at the folder. "Why me?" "Because you're the first. Because you've proven it's possible. Because those young women need to see that completing the program doesn't mean sacrificing your humanity. You're evidence that you can be elite and vulnerable, strong and struggling, successful and still figuring it out. I have PTSD, I have nightmares, I'm barely holding my own life together." "Which makes you perfect for this role," Vincent said bluntly. "Those candidates don't need superhuman inspiration. They need real human connection. They need someone who will tell them the truth about the cost and help them build strategies to manage it. You did that today with Petty Officer Morgan. She called her commanding officer tonight, raving about how your advice changed her entire perspective. That's what we need. That's what you're already doing naturally." Hazel looked at Floyd. He raised his eyebrows. "Your choice." She looked at Archer. He nodded encouragingly. She looked at Dr. Collins, who smiled. "You can do this. With proper support, with therapy, with boundaries in place, you can do this and heal at the same time." Vincent pushed the folder across the table. "Take the weekend. Read through the details, talk to your people, but know this, the Navy needs you, those women need you, and maybe you need this too. Maybe purpose is part of healing." "And the JSOC call?" Hazel asked. "The consultation request?" Vincent's expression flickered with something. Knowledge, concern, classification. "That's separate, different situation. But between you and me, Lieutenant, that request is time-sensitive, lives potentially in the balance. They wouldn't ask unless they truly needed your specific expertise." She stood, left the folder on the table. "My direct number's inside. Call me by Monday noon with your answer. Either way, thank you for your service. You've already done more than anyone had the right to ask." After Vincent left, Hazel sat staring at the closed folder. 2 offers in 48 hours. 2 opportunities to step back into military life, albeit from the edges. 2 chances to find purpose beyond slinging drinks and folding towels into perfect squares. "What are you thinking?" Floyd asked. "I'm thinking," Hazel said slowly, "that maybe I've been hiding long enough. Maybe Sarah Morrison didn't fight for recognition, so I could spend my life invisible. Maybe I owe it to her, and to Crystal and those other candidates, and to my 3 teammates who didn't make it home. Maybe I owe them the courage to be visible." "You don't owe anyone anything," Floyd reminded her. No, but maybe I owe myself the chance to be useful again, to matter, to make a difference instead of just surviving. Archer leaned forward. If you take these positions, either one or both, you won't be doing it alone. The community will support you. The VA will support you. We'll all be here. I know. Hazel opened the folder, scanned the contents. Training schedule, compensation package, responsibilities and expectations. All professional, all reasonable, all terrifying in how real they made the possibility. She pulled out her phone, looked at the JSOC message. 48 hours. She had until tomorrow night to respond. I need to make a call, she said quietly. Floyd nodded. Use the back office. Privacy. Hazel walked to Floyd's small office, closed the door, sat at his desk in the dim light from a single lamp. She pulled up the JSOC number, finger hovering over the call button. Everything in her screamed to delete the message, ignore the request, stay safe in her civilian anonymity. But she thought about Sarah Morrison flying into hostile fire to save Marines, about Crystal facing Hell Week in 6 weeks, about her 3 teammates who died in Yemen, trusting her to lead them home. She pressed call. 2 rings. A male voice answered. Lieutenant Reed? This is Reed. Thank you for calling back. I'm not going to waste your time with pleasantries. We have a situation in Yemen. A SEAL team is trapped behind enemy lines. They're facing a compound assault, similar to the one you survived in August 2019. Different terrain, different enemy force, but tactically analogous. We need your expertise on compound breach points, defensive positioning, and extraction logistics specific to that region. You're the only operator who's successfully defended and escaped that exact type of scenario. Will you help us? Hazel's heart raced. Yemen, the place that still haunted her dreams, the mission that cost her everything. How long do I have? The team has 72 hours of supplies. After that, their options diminish rapidly. If I consult, I do it on my terms. I don't deploy. I provide tactical advice remotely. I'm not field operational. Understood and accepted. We need your brain, not your trigger finger. And I need guarantees. If I help, those operators get the support they need. No half measures, no cost cutting, no acceptable losses. Every available asset gets deployed. You have my word, and the word of the Joint Chiefs. This team comes home. We just need your help figuring out how. Hazel closed her eyes, saw her 3 dead teammates, saw the compound collapse, saw the fire and blood and chaos that defined that mission. And then she saw the 3 operators who'd survived because she'd made the right calls under impossible pressure. I'll do it, she said. When do we start? Tonight. Transport will pick you up in 90 minutes. Bring what you need for 72 hours at Coronado Base. Secure facility, full support staff, direct comms with the team on the ground. I'll be ready. She hung up, sat in silence for 30 seconds, processing the magnitude of what she'd just agreed to. Then she stood, squared her shoulders, and walked back into the bar. Everyone looked at her expectantly. I'm going back in, Hazel said simply. Not as an operator, as a consultant. There's a team in Yemen. They need my expertise. I leave in 90 minutes. Floyd nodded slowly. Okay, what do you need? A ride to my apartment, 10 minutes to pack, and maybe some coffee for the road. Done. Dr. Collins stood. Hazel, we still have Monday's appointment. When you get back. No matter what happens in the next 72 hours, you come in Monday. Promise me. I promise. Archer grabbed his jacket. I'm driving you to base. No arguments. Archer, Grace and I are driving you. You're not doing this alone. You walk in with community at your back, and you'll have community waiting when you come out. Hazel felt tears threaten. Thank you. They moved with military efficiency. Floyd locking up the bar, Hazel grabbing her go-bag from the apartment, Archer and Grace waiting in their truck. Within 15 minutes, they were on the highway heading toward Coronado, streetlights blurring past in the darkness. You scared? Grace asked from the back seat. Terrified. Good. Fear means you're taking it seriously. Means you respect the stakes. What if I can't help? What if my advice gets them killed? What if your advice saves them? Archer countered. What if you're the difference between those operators coming home or becoming another memorial? You can't know until you try, and you're trying. That's what matters. They reached Coronado at 00:15 hours. The base was lit up, security tight, official vehicles moving with purpose. Archer pulled up to the main gate, showed credentials, got waved through to a secure facility in the back corner of the complex. A team of officers waited outside, Navy, some in uniform, some in civilian clothes. Commander Vincent stood among them, looking unsurprised to see Hazel. "Lieutenant Reed," Vincent greeted her. "Welcome back." "I'm not back," Hazel corrected. "I'm helping." "There's a difference." "Fair enough. Come on. We've got a situation room set up. Full satellite feeds, direct comms with the team on the ground, tactical maps, historical data from your 2019 mission. Everything you need." Hazel grabbed her bag, turned to Archer and Grace. "Thank you for everything. We'll be here when you're done," Archer promised. 72 hours. We'll be right here." Hazel nodded, took a deep breath, and followed Commander Vincent into the facility. The door closed behind her with a heavy metallic click. She was back in the world she'd left behind, stepping into the fire one more time, using her trauma and experience to prevent others from suffering the same fate. In a room filled with screens and officers and tactical readouts, Hazel Reed stood looking at a map of Yemen. Satellite imagery showed a compound surrounded by hostile forces. Radio chatter played over speakers. American voices, tense but professional, requesting support and waiting for orders. "Lieutenant," Vincent said quietly, "tell us how to bring them home." Hazel studied the map, saw the defensive positions, the breach points, the kill zones and escape routes, saw her past and their future overlapping in one terrible moment of synchronicity. And she began to speak, her voice steady despite the fear, sharing the hard-won lessons that had cost her everything and might now save lives. Outside, dawn approached. The sun would rise on a new day, on a woman finding purpose in her pain, on a warrior discovering that sometimes the only way through trauma is straight into its heart. The phone on the desk rang, incoming call from the field. The team leader's voice came through, recognizing Hazel's call sign from the after-action reports. "Ghost 7, this is Eagle 3. Is that really you, the female SEAL from 2019? Hazel picked up the receiver. "This is Ghost 7, and yes, I'm here. I'm going to help you get home. Tell me what you're seeing. Tell me everything." And in that moment, Lieutenant Hazel Reed stepped fully back into her identity, not hiding anymore, not invisible, but present and purposeful and using every terrible thing she'd learned to make a difference. The bartender and the SEAL operator, the traumatized survivor and the capable warrior, all existing simultaneously in one complex, flawed, incredible human being. The story wasn't over. It was just beginning again, in a new way, with new purpose, with new possibilities for healing through service. And somewhere in the darkness, Sarah Morrison's legacy lived on, carried forward by women like Hazel who refused to let barriers stand, who kept fighting even when the cost was enormous, who transformed their pain into power and their trauma into teaching. The sun rose over San Diego. The anchor bar sat quiet and empty. And Lieutenant Hazel Reed, once invisible bartender, now visible warrior, began the work of bringing lost operators home from the same hellscape that had nearly destroyed her. Because that's what warriors do. They keep going. They keep serving. They refuse to quit. And they bring each other home, no matter the cost.